Welcome to the First Buck Podcast, where we feature stories about entrepreneurs and the people who support them. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, and welcome to the First Buck Podcast, brought to you by sky'sthelimit.org. We feature stories about entrepreneurs and the people who support them. Today, we're joined by Sekou Kaalund, Executive Vice President and Head of Branch and Small Business Banking for U.S. Bank, where he oversees the organization's 2,200 branches across 26 states. Prior to joining U.S. Bank, Sekou spent 15 years at JPMorgan Chase in a variety of leadership roles, most recently serving as head of Chase Consumer Bank for the Northeast Division, overseeing $375 billion in deposits and investments. His commitment to impact, coupled with his extraordinary experience building businesses, led to his involvement in launching the Advancing Black Pathways, the first global corporate initiative that leveraged a data-driven strategic framework to develop scalable programs to reduce the racial wealth gap. The success of this initiative, which included hiring thousands of Black students, providing millions of dollars in capital to Black businesses, reaching over 1 million individuals with financial health content, led to a historic 5-year, firm-wide $30 billion commitment to advance racial equity. So we are extremely lucky to have you today. We've got a little tradition around here, Sekou. We need to learn, how did you earn your first buck?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, and thank you for the great work you're doing for incredible entrepreneurs who will be the future of this country. How I earned my first big buck is through entrepreneurship of my parents. They had a small business, transportation company, and we worked, my brothers, in the company. And so at that time, minimum wage was about $3.25 an hour. And so that's where I started my initial work, but also was able to observe the challenges that they had as a small business. When I turned 14, I did work in retail. So I continued that earning the buck, so to speak, by working at a clothing store. And I did that throughout high school as well.
Okay, so from helping out with your parents in the earliest days to going on and working in retail, your story sort of charts some things I think are that really connect with a lot of people, which is they sort of use the things that are around them to get started. Tell us a little bit about what you learned about small business from your parents and how that sort of translated, after you went into retail and then furthering on in your career. What are some lessons that sort of apply regardless of what stage the business might be?
Yeah, I was able to learn a lot of lessons, some of which influenced my path. So the importance of finance, for instance, with small businesses or banking relationships. Quite often, business owners launch an initiative or a business because they're passionate about a topic. They see an opportunity in the market. They don't launch their business to be able to engage with accountants and understand banking and finance. That's not why you launch your business. You don't say, you know what, I would just love to sit in the bank branch. And so
I want to be surrounded by all accountants, tax lawyers, and everybody else. That's a parade.
Sign me up, right? So since that is not why folks launch businesses, it's important to then understand early on how you engage, how you structure your business from the outset, which will then have an impact as you look to get financing, et cetera. But I also understood the challenges that small businesses have, particularly in the hot labor market, in attracting the talent that they need. Many times, small business owners have to play multiple hats. So they, have 3 different jobs, right? And it's just, the requirement as you're bootstrapping or launching or leveraging your business to grow. But what I would say is understand upfront, again, getting the right people around you. Your majors. What are your minors? What are the things that, you don't walk into your office excited about? Like, who has that skill set that can help you in those areas where, again, it's not necessarily your passion, but it's critical for the ongoing success of the business.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about how people go about maybe finding those majors and minors, and maybe if you could pull a little bit of your personal story. So you're growing up, you've got parents that are running a small business, you start learning a little bit about the business world yourself, then you go on and enter the business world. What were some things, And how did you end up sort of taking personal risks, and what were you investing in on an individual basis for yourself that sort of gave you those, I'd say, moments to grow in your career?
Yes, and I'll share more of my story. I guess this is what the podcast is for. So my parents, their business ended up failing because of a lack of access to capital and some other challenges. And so that prompted me, you asked about my first buck, to actually work two jobs. My freshman year, ninth grade, I worked probably 35 hours a week during the school week and about 75 hours a week during the summer. So I saw firsthand in terms of the challenges, of navigating small business. But I will say the greatest wealth creation that has occurred in this country has been entrepreneurship. And so it is a difficult journey. It's your passion doesn't make it easier. It makes it easier for you to navigate. So it doesn't, just because you're passionate about something, the ocean doesn't part and all of a sudden you skip to work with all these great clients, et cetera. So again, what the passion gives you is that ability to have perseverance through the difficult times. And for me, those difficult times were also a learning lesson. So it allowed me to see firsthand that there are many talented people. Talent is created equally, opportunity is not. But
Yep.
even with talent, you have to understand, how do I lock into resources and attract resources and the support that's going to be necessary for me to grow. And sometimes that's individuals, mentors, and other times that's programs. It's again, sky'sthelimit.org. It's getting access to the information and people that can be helpful on your journey. As for my journey, I later on participated in an internship program in corporate my senior year and was making double the money per hour. And so then that was another aha moment that you can work as hard as you want, but sometimes it's about working smarter with the right set of opportunities. And so that opened my perspective in terms of corporate America and what it could do to support small businesses. Specifically, I would be remiss not to acknowledge that this was not my journey. At age 5, I wanted to run for Senate. I wanted to create laws that impacted poor communities. And so I was on this service journey. I had this epiphany in graduate school that capital and banking and finance could be a better way for me to drive the impact that I wanted to across communities. And so I would have to be open to the pivot and realize that my passion was about serving and recognizing that there's more than one way to serve. And so the more access you have or exposure to information, you're able to refine the steps on your journey to really be focused on achieving your goals.
Yep. Lots of pearls of wisdom in there. Tell us a little bit about how, from your perspective, having both been involved in watching small businesses and the highs and lows with that, and then supporting small businesses in your career, what has changed over the last 20, 30, 40 years? What do small businesses need to be thinking about in 2024 versus maybe how it was, 20, 30 years ago? Or are things kind of the same? What is your perspective on that?
I think as a positive, what has changed is access to information. So now you can, whether you need to create your LLC, their online services, whether you need to understand what grants or programs may be available, more of that information now is at your fingertips through, again, the access to information we have. What hasn't changed is the challenges some may face around funding their business. And with that, it means there's an increased need for you to understand, what is it that you're trying to do? Like, what are you solving for? What's this client base that you're perceiving, you're going to solve an issue or create a value-added service, and then having that clarity in a business plan. So I think even now where, maybe a couple of decades ago, you could only have had the idea and some hit and miss and get there. I think, with business formation happening at a much more rapid rate in terms of small business, you have to have that clarity on what you're solving for from a marketplace standpoint. And then with that business plan, understanding like what are your, how do you pressure test that? So all that becomes more relevant versus pie in the sky, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. You do want to have a blend of your innovation and creative ideas with the practicality of how this is going to work. And so I think that how this is going to work piece, is certainly elevated because that is a first pass of the viability of your idea. Like if you're able to take that feedback, evolve and adjust, then you can understand how you roll out and execute at a greater scale.
I love that. So it's basically we start with our passion, we figure out what problem we're trying to solve, we really understand our customer, and then we keep iterating from there. Love that.
Yes.
Talk to us a
And
little.
I'll only just add one
Yeah.
thing too. You have to be able to tell that story back to the business plan, because if you let someone fill in the dots and connect the dots for you, they may get a different picture, right? And so really having clarity on these items. The only thing I have to judge if I'm thinking about investing in your business or if I'm, making a loan or whatever it is how you tell that story, right? If you have the uncertainty, then how will I develop the certainty if you're still working it out? So really investing the time to understand, telling your story and your ideas and how you can evidence that it will work to the extent that it's a market opportunity. And talk to your friends, other small business owners, talk to just friends that you have to say, hey, let me practice this pitch on you. And again, leverage a variety of resources. Sometimes there's seminars, so that you could really refine, that pitch so that when you have that shot, you're knocking it out the park.
Yeah, I think you're onto something that's so important here for small businesses, but also for individuals, which is to get good at their storytelling, to have confidence in it and practice it. And, it's something everyone has to work on. No one just sprouts out of the ground as a perfect storyteller. They have to get better at these things. You can do that by practicing them. I wanted to ask you a question sort of tangentially related to this, which is, we all sort of benefit by having good advisors, mentors, teachers, coaches, people around us that are mirrors, people that are foils, people that help us see blind spots. Who are some of those characters, in your life that have just, helped you across your career or across your entrepreneurship or investment opportunities, or just in life in general? Like, tell us a little bit about those personalities. What are they bringing for you, and how do you cultivate those relationships?
You're touching on a critically important point, and that is mentorship. So for me, mentoring has been crucial to my career, and I can confidently state that I would not be here talking to you or being able to navigate what I've done in banking were it not for the advice, counsel, and wisdom that mentors imparted on me. And so I want to say that mentoring doesn't stop. Even today, by many measures, people would say I'm successful executive, et cetera. I still rely on mentoring. So it's almost like parenting. You're not only a parent when your children are smaller, you're a parent, for their lifetime, right? And so, but what I would say about mentoring is how you go about developing some of these relationships that matter. Part of it will be like telling your story. So I'll give you 5 quick things. Telling your story, we talked about the narrative. Well, in this context, it's telling your story of understanding why you want to connect with someone, right? What is it that they experience-wise possess that you feel will be additive or provide insight for your journey? So that's the first thing. The second thing I would say is, when you do connect with people, demonstrate that you value your time. Back to communication, have a clear agenda and engage in active listening. So that becomes important, especially as you talk about developing an ongoing relationship. 3, I would say, similar to number 2, be very structured and effective in your communications, because people aren't typically just waiting around to say, I don't have much to do today. when is a mentee going to call me so I can just wax poetically, right? Instead, they're balancing multiple priorities. So meeting with you is an intentional choice. So you want to structure your communication so that you do have effective discussions. And I would say 4 and 5, I would create a diverse group of advisors and mentors, even if they don't have the term mentor. Don't jump and say, hey, I'm launching a business, you've been successful, will you be my business mentor? How about instead just create that engagement and dialogue and understand the insights that you need to extract and have a discussion. It may be a point in time, you may have 5 meetings, but don't lead with, hey, I need a mentor and you're it, because the person is probably thinking, even though I'm giving, I don't have the bandwidth. I barely have time to do my personal stuff, right? And the last thing I would say, number 5, is look for opportunities to reciprocate. So perhaps you're helping someone else. And I think when you use those 5 steps in any order, but you develop organic engagement that can then unlock opportunities for you to, ask those difficult questions, to take the feedback and to execute. The other thing I will say is don't expect a prescriptive, wake up in the morning, eat your cereal, work out, and then go have coffee. Like, your mentor isn't going to give you the step-by-step on what you need to do. And that's why I say that clear communication is important. I would not be where I am, and I would argue most people on this planet, you don't do it alone. You benefit from someone who's willing, even when there's nothing that you're doing per se to deserve their time. They're willing to invest because they may see something in you that you don't even see in yourself. They may see a version of where they are, and they know that their success was only possible because someone cared enough to invest in them.
I think those moments happen for people at different times. It's like there are keys that have to unlock those things, and sometimes you're not ready for it yet, or you haven't figured out how to make that ask. And I think your 5 sort of, I won't call them rules, I'll say thoughts to have about having good mentorship conversations, relationships are really, really important to hit home here, which is like, reach out to someone, but really know why you want to reach out to them, and be thoughtful in your ask. And that's really about respecting their time. And then you want to make sure that you have a structured conversation, and that you're very serious about your intents with that. And then finally, I think you were dead on with this sort of working through a collection of diverse perspectives to help you see things that you didn't know were there, and then repeating this cycle and finding opportunities for reciprocity in it. I think was hugely. I think I got those right. But
you absolutely spot on. Yeah.
But we're gonna have to. There's a business book in there somewhere, I think. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I love the role that mentorship and coaching plays for everybody. Is honestly, if you do a good job with it, it works for both really, really well. It creates this mutual benefit, and I think that's one of the things that I find when I work with young entrepreneurs. And also when I seek advice from role models that I look up to, is to just sort of constantly open up my aperture of wisdom and looking at things, and not necessarily coming at it with, well, I have to do the following 50 things in order to be successful. I don't think that's true at all. And you talked about that as well. So let's talk a little bit about, a lot of small businesses, they start off and they go, God, if I just had money, everything would be easier. I would solve all these problems. And a lot of small businesses and a lot of entrepreneurs, they're comparing themselves to much bigger businesses at the very earliest stages. And I think there's this preconception that if they just had, a lot of money thrown at them, that they would fix all their problems right away. Talk to us a little bit about how to think about, access to capital, finance, how to become more fluent with it. It can seem like this really intimidating set of vocabulary, and there's so many different words that people use. Give us a little bit of a mapping of it in kind of your view for how small businesses should think about, working with banking relationships, seeking capital from other types of sources, if they need it at all. When is the right time to think about that? Yeah, give us sort of maybe a short masterclass in that.
Yes. Yeah. So I'll start with an important statement, and that I'll look at you in your face to all these business owners. You are necessary. And by that, I mean the U.S. economy is driven by small business. 2/3 of the net job creation over any decade is basically driven by small business. And so recognize the importance that what you're trying to do plays not only for your local community, your state, but for the national economy as a whole. The second thing I would say as you think about the financing aspect, it goes back to having that clear vision of what you want to do. There's a proverb that says, without vision, people perish. And there's a shift to it. Another translation says, without vision, people wander aimlessly. And so, as a small business owner, without that vision, you may delve into multiple things and say, okay, let me try this. No, well, that didn't work. Let me try that. Versus having the clarity that you need in order to stay the course and stay focused. And so that clarity will then enable you to focus on some of the challenges that you're trying to solve, or some of the things that you need, right, to in order to successfully get your business up and running. As it relates to the finance, it's probably easy to have a rich aunt or uncle. Unfortunately, many of us don't have that. And so without that, then you have to even be more prudent on, how you're leveraging opportunities. So perhaps you're working somewhere and trying to launch your business. Recognize, like, what is the best point for me to move full time into my business venture, or how am I going about saving in a disciplined way? If I know that at some point I'm going to try to launch this, how am I building relationships and socializing the ideas so that there may be people who are willing to engage, invest, and help out? As it relates to banking, and I won't do a U.S. bank commercial, but one of the things I'm proud of that we've launched is this business access advisors. And so what their job is simple. It's not to sell you a product. It's not to do anything except help you as a small business owner launch and teach you the answers to the test as it relates to financing, and help you think through markets, et cetera. And I would venture to say not all banks, but I know I've launched a similar effort at my prior institution, have these roles where you can actually talk to someone. It's not in every branch, so you may not be able to walk in the branch and say, "Hey, where's that business access advisor?" But understand, where some of this exists, whether it's through CDFI or another institution, just to really have those structural, foundational business conversations, right? And then the more you learn, then you can begin to elevate your language to the banking speak, to be able to speak in terms that they can understand. So recognizing, like, what you will need to talk about, whether it's, let's say you've launched and you've been in business a year or two and you have cash flows, and being able to talk about where your business is going, and having knowledge around what is impacting it, it becomes critical. And some of those conversations, whether through nonprofits, CDFIs, banks that have a function, which I strongly believe in, this function of business access advisors, that can help you shorten your learning journey, as well as they can put you in touch, any of these organizations, with sometimes other organizations that may have funding or insights or technical assistance that can help you on your journey. So part of this journey is a knowledge journey. You're going to have to, just as you want to be innovative about your go-to-market, you're going to have to be innovative about your, gain insight and knowledge, right? And so part of that I would do that up front if you can, because then if you're launching your business, you have as much of the insights as possible, so that as you continue to make progress and momentum, you know where to tap in. So day one may not be the first day to call a bank and say, "I need a $500,000 line. I have this idea." I'm going to go ahead and tell you that the likelihood of that being approved is very, very no, it's not. It's not going to be approved. So, what are the things that you need to do to take that idea, to test it with the market, to engage with the bank, open up banking accounts, Those are some early foundational steps that matter, because what you don't want to do is begin to commingle and have your personal accounts with your work accounts, because then it makes it hard for a bank to underwrite, right? And so these are the things, understanding upfront what's the knowledge, insight you need, what are the business services you need, so that you're not spending time later trying to correct challenges that you created on the front end.
Love this. So yeah, shorten your learning journey, have a learning mindset. And I think one of the things that's critical is about seeking these conversations out so that you can upskill, you can develop a little more fluency with the language. And there are people out there that want to help. And it's all just about getting your story out and learning, and about building confidence in doing that. It doesn't need to be specifically intimidating. It's just about the practice of it, and I think there's some real good wisdom in there. And I'll put one more out there, which is definitely don't commingle your personal funds with your work and business ones. It will be an issue if you do that. So the earlier you can segregate them, and it's always hard at the beginning, but it's the right path to take.
Yeah,
okay.
sometimes you're. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go.
I was just saying, like, that becomes important. Your personal credit, on occasions, there's certain times where you may do a personal guarantee, or they'll look at your credit as a proxy. So it just totally depends. But before we talk about the type of capital you want, equity, debt, angel investor, like, if you don't have the basics that we just talked about, like down, like business plan, all those other conversations become a moot point, because you won't be able to have a dialogue to attract the capital if you don't have the fundamentals of what you're trying to achieve.
Yep. All right, let's wrap it up with one last question. A lot of people are very intimidated about starting a business, and pursuing entrepreneurship can feel really scary, like a whole new type of responsibility. What tips can you give our listeners in the small businesses out there for how they can think about managing that stress and beginning that journey?
What I would say, we'll start with the reward. And the reward, beyond financial measures, is that you're acting on your passion. And because you're acting on your passion, when you do face the tough times, whether it's a corporate environment, government, or nonprofit, it's your passion that will propel you to carry on. And so know that that when you're able to do this, there was a statistic when in the prior role I used to quote that for Black business owners, they had 8 times the net worth of Black non-business owners. So again, there's this great opportunity with small business, and you may have personal satisfaction that you're addressing a challenge or meeting a particular market opportunity. So recognize that just because you are passionate doesn't mean that the journey becomes easy. Again, your passion makes it easier for you to deal with the challenges and obstacles. But when you make it through, that's when it can be rewarding. That all of the large businesses in our country, the majority started as small businesses, right? And so recognize that there are people who have blazed the trail. Their path may be different. They may have access to more resources, et cetera, but don't focus on what you don't have to keep that and make that preclude you from focusing on getting what you need. So just recognize it comes with the territory. But guess what? If you're working in a corporation, you also have challenges. You also have risks. So don't look at it as, one is a risk-free option. The only risk-free option is doing nothing. And that gives you the return of what you're putting into it, nothing, right? And so what you want to do is then just have, as we said, that clarity, that sounding board, mentors, advisors, and then access to the resources you need so that you can avoid unnecessary obstacles. And so you can do it. You believe in yourself. There's others that believe in you. And I would just say, take that energy, take that enthusiasm and passion, but direct it in ways that you best accelerate your pathway. But recognize you may have to pivot. You may have said, I'm going to launch this business. I'm going to turn left. And you might say, oh, I need to actually turn right. I have a friend that launched a business, left a Fortune 500 company. It's now a publicly traded company. And I I was advising this person, why would you do that in this form, etc. And he pivoted and got all other insight, and they shifted what the business was. So that is okay. That is a sign of a win, that you're able to take the feedback, whether it's market or from people, to adapt and adjust your business to achieve the ultimate success that I believe is possible for you.
All right. I love that. Thank you for those amazing concluding remarks. There are a few things that I circled through our conversation here, Sekou, that I think really resonated through all of this, which is, one, your personal passion for entrepreneurship and small businesses in America is palpable. I think one of the things you said that really stuck out to me was just, you are necessary. And those are the entrepreneurs and the small businesses out there that are building the things we need, that are clothing us, that are feeding us, that have imaginations for stuff we don't even know we want yet. And it is so critical that you pursue those passions. And I think your starting point about speaking about passion is so relevant because, as you mentioned, it doesn't necessarily fix all your problems for you, but it creates this deep reservoir of motivation that will allow you to persevere through the obstacles that will inevitably find their way to you. And you just keep solving one through the next, and you can find that sort of longitudinal reward out of solving problems for people, helping create wealth for you, your family, your communities, and beyond, to stay the course with it. And if you do need to make a little bit of a pivot, that's absolutely okay. Do it with information and then keep trying, and the market and the world will give you a perspective and you can keep pursuing it. I think the last bit that we have to comment on is just how we both know that the value of having advisors and mentors and coaches and people around you to think through your ideas, to challenge you, but for you to also challenge them about their perspectives is really healthy. And to have a structured, comprehensive dialogue when you have those conversations that's honest is going to give you superpowers. So thank you so much for coming on the Sky's the Limit podcast today, from earning your first buck with your parents to working in a small business to now working in one of the biggest businesses in the United States, and then helping the next generation of American entrepreneurs. You can really see the story arc work its way through everything you told us about today. So thank you so much. We really appreciated your time today. So at skyslimit.org, we connect underrepresented entrepreneurs with volunteer business professionals for free one-on-one mentoring. We also provide business guides to all of our members, plus free monthly funding opportunities so you can win grants at skyslimit.org. Please sign up for free today. If you like what you heard, you can subscribe.
Thanks for listening to the First Buck podcast. Don't forget to join the community of underrepresented entrepreneurs and their supporters by signing up at skysthelimit.org. Click subscribe, and we'll see you next time.